Our debt is not just a Republican problem or a Democratic problem. Congress and administrations, led by both parties, have recklessly added to the debt. I'm terribly disappointed that we're playing a game of political chicken with a debt ceiling instead of working on an agreement to pay the bills coming due and also to reduce the debt moving forward. The best way to resolve this is for Congress and the administration to return to a normal budget negotiating process. In other words, to do our jobs.
All right, you never know that Joe Manchin is up for re-election next year, but maybe he's reading the political winds or reminding Democrats that with those thin margins, remember, Dianne Feinstein is not around, it's a pretty even Senate, so he could tip it toward whatever plan the Republicans come up to avoid this debt ceiling quagmire and come up with a solution to that. Now, there's a lot of cutting in Kevin McCarthy's plan here. It's still subject to a vote, and that vote, of course, could just come close to getting all Republicans on board. He can afford to lose only about 4 of them, and then, of course, get that to the Senate. Guarantees are not in any of this. Andy Harris is the Maryland Republican congressman, sits on the House Committee on Appropriations. Congressman, where does this stand and Kevin McCarthy's plan? What we know of it and what you know of it, do you like it?
I do. I think it's the way forward. I think Joe Manchin, by the way, I think is reading the political tea leaves. A majority of Americans, a clear majority, feel that as we raise this credit limit on our collective credit card, we have to control our spending.
So we hear there's a bit of a brush fire concern among some of your colleagues, Republican colleagues. You were not originally for the speaker, but as votes continued, you moved to his side. But I understand that the agreement was that if even a single member doesn't like what he's doing, he could be out of there. Do you know of other members who do not like what he's doing, who do not like the plan he's crafting?
There are going to be a couple of members who I think vote against it. I don't think that means that they're going to move to remove the speaker. I think, again, almost all the Republicans are very happy with this package. We think this negotiation needs to go forward. We think we need to control spending, and we're not going to risk, bumping up against the debt ceiling and undermining the full faith and credit. I mean, I don't think that has to happen. The ball's going to be in the president's court pretty soon.
Well, he doesn't like the ball that's in his court right now. He doesn't like to apparently returning to spending at 22 levels, doesn't like reallocating hundreds of billions of dollars of unspent money, including COVID money, doesn't like eliminating this student loan forgiveness plan entirely, doesn't like, some of the other features that would call Republicans to nix every single one of the tax increases he had considered. To him, it's dead on arrival. What do you say?
Well, I've got to tell you, he ought to read the polls because the American people agree that we need to control this spending. The bottom line is, look, this president likes to spend. He spent trillions and trillions of dollars. He presented a budget last month that never, ever balances. You just can't do that.
He would not be the first president to do that, right? The last president, even before COVID, and the president before him, one after another, have never done that and spent like drunken sailors. So what's so special about him?
Actually, that's not true, because presidents do present budgets that don't balance in the current year, but they'll balance 10 or 20 years out. This is the first time the president submitted a budget that never, ever balances.
So do you have, with this plan that is being submitted, faith that in 10 years it would balance out? Because I don't even know what I'm having for breakfast tomorrow. I don't know about you. So I don't know how anyone can come up with something in 10 years.
No, I think that at these spending cut levels, I think you're looking at about a 15-year balance. But again, we have to get back on the path to balance. It's probably not going to be a 10-year path, but even a 15-year path is a path that's better than never, ever balancing.
What is the drop-dead figure that you're hearing, Congress? You're closer to this and more aware and astute of this than I'll ever be. We hear that it's midsummer, late summer, that everything comes up against the wall. If we don't do something, we could default. What do you think?
Well, the Treasury Secretary said it's going to be the second week in June. The Congressional Budget Office says it's closer to July or August. So we really don't know. The Treasury Secretary knows what extraordinary measures she can take. But there is time is of the essence. I think that's why it's important that we pass this this bill next week, or we stay in session the recess week after until we can pass a bill to begin the negotiation with the president.
All right. Hopefully it won't come to any of that. Congressman Harris, great seeing you. Have a safe weekend.